Welcome back to the Eric Krown Crypto channel. Wishing you a happy healthy start to this nice Thursday. Yeah, it's a nice little Thursday over here. Last day in Greece, and then we head back home to move to our new house. So going to be very, very busy over the next few days, probably the next week, as we get kind of situated there. So I would once again request a bit of patience, as I am trying my best here to get back to everyone. But we are limited, of course, and it will be very hectic in the next 48 hours, I suspect. Anyways, other than that, I wanted to follow up on the short-term time frame analysis. We're getting the bounce we were looking for yesterday, and then how that kind of plays into the higher term timeframes. And other than that, because it is going to be a busy day today, I may do updates on Instagram if price action calls for such, as I suspect that between today and tomorrow, that being Friday, the end of the month, probably going to see some nice moves here. Anyways, there is a link to that in the description below, and without further ado, let's just jump into it right now. So first things first, wanted to follow up in the last couple of days of price action. So yesterday, or was the day prior, we were looking at any sort of a move below 19,700 as beginning a continuation drive to the downside. Whoops, let me get rid of this. To the 18,500-ish region right here where the rally started, that being this blue box territory. After that, yesterday, we came in and said, hey, looking at daily BBWP, and I'm just explaining my thought process here so you can do this for yourself if you desire, or at least understand my own logic with this. And the daily BBWP was downtrending right here. So that was a good indication that we were not going to see any continuation to new lows from there. No major massive breaks, of which the criteria for a major massive break would be the same as before. Any sort of a breakdown, any sort of a higher term time frame closure below the low of this range, which is about 18,100, yes, I'd be looking for big bad moves to the downside. But for right now, the short term time frame range we go in over here, I think we should put on the large plans. This little doodle we drew yesterday is still the same, 19,700. Probably even should raise that up to be a little bit more on the conservative side, more about here, about 19,770. Any sort of a closure above there, and I would be looking for Bitcoin to mount an assault short term to the 200 simple, somewhere around there, which is around the 27th of September high, about 20,400 to 20,500. We'll talk about how that can bleed into the higher term timeframes soon enough, but before that, again, the downside the same as before, 18,100 on a higher term timeframe closure, but short term, very, very short term on an hourly, any sort of a closure below that 19,050 sort of quick little liquidity grab right there, and I would be looking for another return back down to the low. So, what could we see short term if the range wants to continue? Maybe another spike up here, reject, come back down, boom, do the same thing, and make everyone really, 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 really frustrated. Definitely possible, and those things do tend to happen more often than not. So until I do see a full-on closure above this region right here, I would not be looking for that continuation to the upside. But here's the thing. The daily BBWP now is incredibly low. We're talking about spot 40 percentile. So we are very likely looking at a big move relatively soon. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow, probably more like Friday. That's going to be the end of the month. If not, then probably looking at Monday for the new month when regular markets start trading again. But here's the thing. Any sort of a trade, let's say, let me put this back in perspective. So going back here, if we do see a short-term resolution to the upside, 19,770, I would be looking, like I said, towards that 200 simple moving average, which will give Bitcoin a chance to trade back above the 27th of September high right here. Any sort of a trade above that region on CME, 20,400, and I would be looking for a continuation somewhere around the green moving average here, which is a 55 exponential moving average, which is 21,500. So we're talking about, about $1,000, a little bit more than $1,000 move likely to occur if that criteria is met. With BBWP very, very low like this on the daily, this is a strong consideration. Moving on to stochastic momentum, daily stochastic momentum remains the upside as long as Bitcoin's above 19,150. So that is actually the hourly pivot right there, meaning that if Bitcoin fails it essentially, then very likely another drive back down to the lows, puts Bitcoin in a place to actually break the lows. But again, don't want to get ahead of myself here because these sort of things can take time, obviously. 12-hour stochastic momentum also remains with upside pressure as long as Bitcoin is above 19,330. 6-hour remains with, will actually cross the upside above 18,800. 4-hour will be upside above 18,700, and hourly will be probably flippy floppy here, but it's been the most accurate one recently. Below 19,570, it will actually continue down. So again, what's most likely to happen here? Ranges are most likely to continue. So, personally speaking, I'd probably look for something like this. and then reject, and then come back down, blah, 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 do something like that, and just, stress everyone out. It's not until I do see a full-on closure above that region on a 4-hour or an hourly above 19,950 on a closing basis where I look for that continuation to the 27th, or maybe even a little bit above the 27th September high, which can then have those downstream effects towards a greater move, another 1,000 or so high, or somewhere around here. With that in mind, I wanted to follow up on the 2-day time frame, which is going to be closing at tonight. And this was, again, another big portion of the analysis for the last, the last 2 to 3 weeks, actually. So this one is a big one. Anyways, the 2-day BBWP, which is a volatility metric. So volatility measures the dispersion of returns. Anytime that we observe the 2-day volatility essentially get below 10 percentile or more in the last 4 to 5 years, the expansion phases from these extreme lows has led to an average move of just under 35% done over the course of about 2.5 weeks. Stochastic oscillator has gone the correct direction on that volatility expansion 84.5% of the time, and that number will be going up because we got that last signal right here, born upon the 18th of September, and that means that this one obviously played out to the downside. So we saw about a 11% move or so to the downside. Thus far, though, with the 2-day stochastic oscillator, having a chance to actually cross the upside, this signal could be essentially resolved, meaning that it's done. So if today on the 2-day time frame, which closed at 7 p.m. Eastern time, closes above 19,600, you'll see this cross the upside. This signal is no longer valid and viable to the downside, and we no longer have bias, or at least a higher probability towards downside continuation in this case in the more immediate future. Keep in mind that this signal was born again 18th of September, so we are working on day number 10-12 here. Just doing some mental math. About day number 11 to 12, something like that. So what does that mean? Well, it means that statistically speaking, we do look at this as very mature, so it would be reasonable to say that this is possible to happen. And again, going back to the lower term timeframes over here, if you do see that move back above this region on a closing basis, you're probably going to see that condition met, which means that this signal is done, and then it's time to look for the next one. And then it's the waiting game yet again for these higher term timeframe signals. So cool. If Bitcoin closes below, obviously, 19,600, downside pressure remains. Probability of a downside breakdown continues to be, I would say relatively high, because we actually have not even hit the bottom side of the first inhibition of this, projected move, or average move, you'd say, which would put Bitcoin around like the $16,500 region. So I do think that does deserve a bit of recognition, simply because if Bitcoin continues to close below there, that means major risks to the downside still, which it is below right now, but I would not be willing to call that with a $50 differential as of this moment. So other than that, those are the major areas that I'm waiting for today. You can kind of see how the lower term timeframes play into the higher term timeframes, and what's most likely to happen, probably more range, honestly. As usual. That's why we love Bitcoin, of course. Anyways, it's time for me to finish packing because we need to leave very soon. So I want to wish you the best as always. Much love, take care, and see you hopefully soon.